Hi everyone. So today we are going to look at a few more commands in Fusion 360. In the last video, we looked at how to use the extrude command, how to use the fillet command, pattern, rectangular pattern, and we looked at how to emboss and deboss something. We also looked at a few shortcuts, hotkeys and keyboard shortcuts. You will also find these shortcuts towards the end of your lab manual for lab 1. Quickly, let's get started with the second set of commands today. So in the previous class, we did this this job and we did something. We modeled a die rather, because it's a single die. In this, I'm going to use something called as the revolve command, and the object that you're trying to draw today is a vase. Now, in this shape, as you can see, it's kind of pointless to extrude a part out. If I'm going to go create a sketch, this time I'm going to take the front view because I'm looking at it from the front, and I just say I'm going to start with a line. Say I draw a line, um, another line over here. Now, before we go any step further, if you could look at just this part of your drawing, you would realize that if I take this particular section and revolve it radially, if I kind of have a radial pattern of this cross section, then I would get the shape of a vase. Now, how am I going to do that? That is where your revolve command comes into picture. So let us draw this cross section over here. I'm going to use, for the curvature, I'm going to use something called as a conic curve. What this does, you take a point and you can kind of give it, in the absence of of dimensions, you could just give it here. It's 0.75, literally tells the radii of the concavity. So you could, so if you want to increase this, it's going to become less concave, and if you're going to decrease this, it's going to become straight. So I'm going to keep this 0.75 works perfect for most of it. So I'm going to keep it at that, and you could adjust this as you want. I'm going to take it further in and to give it the resemblance of a vase. The next thing I'm going to use is an arc. A 3-point arc, what this will do is you give it 2 points and then you show how much you want to give the curvature. So you have given it the diameter and you're going to choose which point on the circle are you taking for it to create an arc. And then I'm going to join these two segments. Now, some of the things that I would want you to look at is over here. This is kind of a sharp corner. I would want to make it more curved. So there are two ways to do this. Easiest thing is to do a fillet. Take these two places and use the fillet command. But as you can see, in a conic curve will not fillet something that with a line. So when you want to fillet something, you're going to need two lines at the same time. So I am going to use something called as a tangent constraints. This is a bar that we did not see last time. The constraints bar has a lot of different constraints that you could employ on the geometry of your sketch. For example, you can keep a line horizontal, you could fix the line, you could create a midpoint, you could create a tangent. What this does, it kind of fixes your geometry. Towards the end, you will notice in the whether a drawing is over-defined or under-defined. For example, if I take the tangent command and give it here, what it does, give me a second. What it has done is this curve is now tangential to this line, but that has kind of ruined the form of the object. So I'm going to undo this. In the event you had a sharper curve over here, for example, and you wanted to create a tangent between these two, it gives a more natural continuous curve over here, because those two lines in general are tangential. Now, once you're done with this, I want, because I haven't really given a lot of constraints, suppose I want to make these two lines parallel to each other. Here you get an error called as sketch geometry is over constrained. This is exactly what I meant by a defined sketch. Previously, a sketch was defined. Now, when I add one more constraint, the sketch becomes over defined, meaning some of the constraints that I have given are redundant in nature. Think about it. If I have a single circle and there are two tangential lines at opposite ends to that curvature, then obviously those two lines are going to be parallel to themselves. I'm going to finish the sketch. Now I need to use the revolve command, or alternatively you can go here and click on revolve. Choose the profile that you want to revolve. Choose the axis. This is the axis. All right. And you can also determine what kind of a revolve. Do you want to do a full revolve, which means it's going to go all the way, or you want to go at some angle. I suppose I want to stop this at say 270. You just don't get a full revolve. It shows you a cut section. But because I want a full flower vase, I'm going to make it 360-degree, one-sided. Okay, so here you can see my vase is ready. But how am I going to put anything inside the vase if it's a solid body? Now I'm going to use something called as a shell command. Click on S, you get a shortcut. Click on shell. Give the inside thickness, the wall thickness. Click on OK. There you have it. Now, depending on the dimensions, you can make this neck as thin or thick as you want. The idea behind this was to learn the revolve command. Now, once revolve was done, we learned revolve and shell command. Let's look at something called as the pipe command and the coil command. I drew a vase, but now I want some ivy lines wrapped around this, or I simply just want to have I just simply want to draw a couple of wires. I want to draw a couple of pipes. How do I draw some bendy pipes? Easiest way is go ahead, create a sketch, choose a phase. Suppose to draw this, I'm going to use something called as the fit point spline. I'm going to take spline, take a fit point spline. What it does is your spline is guided by this line. So there will be a spline between these two angles, then between these two, and so on and so forth. So basically, you can control the direction of the spine by picking where this the endpoints of this line segment could be. So once you decide the endpoint of the line segment, that's exactly where your curvature is going to be. If you want to look at that, you could simply go to your display settings and decide what kind of visual style you want. What are the objects that you want to be visible, or do you want the sketches visible? You can choose from here, and that way you can work around with the settings. Go to create, click on pipe, choose the path, and this was nothing but the path given. Choose the kind of cross section you want. So you can have a square shaped pipe, or you can have a triangular shaped pipe, or you can have a circular cross section for So that was all about the pipe command. Now let's look at the coil command. Now what the coil command does for you, for example, let me take a coil. You take a face where you want to draw it onto, right? I drew a circle of 110 mm. Okay, and give me a second. So one thing that you might want to know is when you hit enter, it automatically by default goes and hits OK in most of these commands. So just change the dimensions to say 150. Now the section size is too huge. Section size is basically the one loop of the coil. So say I'm gonna make it tinier and maybe increase the number of revolutions. Okay, and now when you look at it, if you look at it from here, this looks like a spring. So this is the coil command. Now, if you think about it, if when you want to create springs, when you want to create a kind of, when you want to create any, say, building a transformer and you want to show the coils in them, this makes more sense. But if you want to draw a wire, or you want to show some kind of IV lines, or you want to show some kind of tubings, then the pipe command makes more sense. The next thing I would suggest for you is to go ahead and try and use each of these commands and see what each of them do. The pipe, we have done pipe and extrude and revolve. Go ahead and we've done the emboss as well. Go ahead and try the web command, try the torus and sphere commands as well. It simply just creates a body like a sphere, which is a little difficult to create in solid modeling. In the next basics, we will see a little bit about mirroring features and inserting a plane, etc.